Now, while a knight might yell at God in private, defying the church in public was a different matter entirely. The church had a weapon that everyone, from the poorest peasant to the most powerful king, was terrified of. It wasn't a sword or a siege engine. It was a spiritual weapon called excommunication. To be excommunicated meant to be kicked out of the church. And since the church was everything, it meant you were kicked out of society, out of God's grace, and cut off from any hope of getting into heaven. It was a kind of spiritual death sentence. The church's response would be swift and terrifyingly public. The ceremony would be pure psychological theater. In the main cathedral, the great bell would start to toll, but not in its usual rhythm. It would toll slowly and mournfully, the way it did for a funeral. This was a funeral for a living soul. The inside of the church, normally a familiar and comforting place, would be draped in black cloth. The bishop and all the local priests would gather at the altar, each holding a single lit candle. That flame represented the light of the man's soul. Townspeople would be packed into the church, watching in silence and dread. The bishop would call out the baron's name for all to hear. Then he would pronounce the formal curse, a horrifying formula that left nothing to the imagination. Let him be cursed in his home and in his fields, cursed in his going and in his coming, cursed in his body and in his soul. May the heavens deny him rain, and the earth deny him fruit. As these candles are extinguished, so may his light be extinguished for all eternity, unless he repents. And at that final moment, the bishop and all the priests would hurl their candles to the stone floor, stamping out the flames. The darkness and the smell of snuffed wax would hang in the air. The message was unmistakable. The baron was now an outcast, a spiritual leper. The social consequences were immediate. No one would speak to him, do business with him, or even share a meal with him. They weren't just being unfriendly. They were genuinely afraid that his spiritual contamination could rub off on them and endanger their own souls. He couldn't go to church. He couldn't have his children baptized or married. And if he died while excommunicated, he couldn't receive the last rites, the final confession and blessing that were seen as the essential passport to the afterlife. His body wouldn't be buried in the churchyard with his family and neighbors. It would be dumped in an unmarked pit in some unconsecrated field, like an animal